Hello and welcome into the latest edition.
That's new. I got a fright.
Oh,
I've been on here.
We've got people with us now, Craig. We really do. We've got Craig Burley back with us as well.
Yeah.
Got Stevie Nicol here. Happy to have.
I'm so happy.
Buddy back.
I mean, I've been off. I've had another 10 days off, as you know, because I had some people. And the first thing I do, well, I go to my computer when I come in because I'm trying to fix something. And dangling in my ear is a man with a receipt for expenses. For the millionth time, it's gone wrong.
Again.
Hovering around, hoping that, because Dan's not here at the moment, he's not here today, hoping somebody's going to fix his problem for him.
Yeah.
Again.
Sorry, Stevie.
If you ever see him with a receipt walking towards you,
you know there's a problem.
Run.
Run away. We also have Julien Laurens with us as well, and we need Juls as well because, Stevie, Liverpool have finally made their move for Alexander Isak. Tell us more about it, Juls.
Yeah, that's right, Kate. We expected a first offer to come. We knew more or less how much money Newcastle were after for Alexander Isak, around 150 million euros, which is a lot of money. We've said it many times with Stevie on the show. Liverpool went a little bit lower than that, around 130 million euros, which is already a lot of money when you think that it's twice the price that Newcastle paid for him 3 years ago. So that's a lot of money, regardless of how great Alexander Isak has been the last few seasons. And we expect Liverpool to go again now that that first bid was rejected.
We've not had you here, Craig. How do you think Liverpool would look with Alexander Isak in the fold?
Well, I think Liverpool are already looking pretty good. I mean, they've made some big statements already with the signings. Ekitike, Frimpong, Kirkez, Florian Wirtz's been one of the standout signings from Germany. And when we thought the Ekitike deal was done, we thought, well, it's probably going to go away, Alexander Isak, and maybe Newcastle thought that was the case as well. But this, if Liverpool get it over the line, and obviously Newcastle at the moment are fighting it, what Alexander Isak is going to do remains to be seen, whether he's going to try and be aggressive and pushing it. I mean, we really don't hear of anybody putting transfer requests in these days. I mean, in the old days, that's how it used to work. You'd go in, you'd slap it on the table, and that would be it. Things get done more behind the scenes now with agents and negotiations, and some players go on strike and blah, blah, blah. But this is a huge statement this summer. This whole summer is a huge statement by Liverpool, who were the league champions last year, best team in England by far. This is saying, we're back in Arnley slot, we're not going away. We're not only going to try and dominate England, but we want to try and dominate Europe, like the team Stevie played in back in the day. And so this would be a huge statement if Liverpool got this over the line, because it's given them so many other options with the signings they've already made. So, yeah, I mean, it's aggressive, and obviously their spending falls within the PSR, so that should be fine. But it would be just a huge, huge statement. Of course, Newcastle fans, you know, they want him to stay, and it's, you know, if you're a Newcastle fan, you think it's the greatest place on earth because it's a great club, and they have a great atmosphere, and all that sort of stuff. But the allure of, you know, going to the Liverpools and, you know, the Barcelonas and Real Madrids and all these clubs that have won things for many a year, that's a lot for any player. You can't feel bad for a player if he says, like, I've been great here, this is a great club, but I really want to go somewhere that's not challenging for the Carabao Cup and winning it like Newcastle did, but going and being at the top of the tree, where, if we're being honest, it's unlikely Newcastle are really going to get in amongst that.
See, I agree with everything you've just said, right?
You don't want them?
I'm not saying I don't want them. And I think there's no question they are making a statement and a half.
Correct.
And this is a club, and the board and all the backroom staff, I don't remember the last time they made a mistake. They seem to be getting every single thing right, single time. But
where are we then with this?
So my question, here's my question.
You want something more than this.
Well, here's my question.
You want a better version of an Isak?
No. My question is, are you spending? They want 150. Jules is saying they've offered 130. When you look at around the team, and you've got 130 million available, and you're going to spend it on something that the guy's brilliant, he scores goals. I mean, every team would love him in the starting lineup, But do Liverpool really need him now?
You got two
after getting Ekitike.
Well, you got two right backs. You got three left backs, as far as I'm aware.
Look at
two left backs. You've got. Where do you want?
You know the hole. You know the hole I'm talking about here, next to Van Dijk. Konate is.
But he was very good last year.
He was, but we don't have anybody else. If something happens to Van Dijk or Konate, Gravenberg's playing centre back, or somebody's going to have to fill in. That's my thing. I have no problem having Isak, but if you're going to spend a record amount, surely you should be doing it on something that you really need.
But surely
you've got a big hole at the back.
I know the two new lads have gone in, the recruitment, Edwards and Hughes, but surely this is coming from Arne Slot. I mean, they do the recruiting and the negotiations and all that sort of stuff. But you talk, I mean, they are talking. This is not like some clubs where they're off doing their own thing and the manager's sitting, kicking the door because he's not getting what he wants. There's clear discussion here, and I'm.
Should he not be asking the question I'm asking you though? Should he not be saying, right, listen, I can use Isak. Don't worry about that. I can get this guy scoring goals. But you know what? If we get an injury at the back, we're scuppered.
Yeah. But
is that not the question he should be asking?
Well, that's my point. I would imagine that has been a long, drawn-out conversation, and then they have said, look, if he really felt that he was struggling in that department and he was superly worried about it, they would spend the money, or some of the money, in that position. So they've clearly had a discussion, and if 150 million is the last bit of gold in the pot, then they seem to me that they're going to use it on Isak, which tells me he hasn't got a concern at the other end, which may or may not come back to him.
Which is your fear. But Jules, have they got an eye on a centre-back?
Yeah, that's what I'm being told. There's still money left for a centre-back. You would expect, because Konate is still at the club, but let's not forget as well that Konate only has 1 year left on his contract currently, and the discussions or negotiations over an extension are not really going in the right direction right now. They might be able to be okay in January or February, a bit like what happened with Van Dijk and Salah, and Konate signs the extension and stays for another 2 or 3 years. But for now, that's not the case. So they will go for a centre-back, a third one that would be more of a backup of Virgil and Konate, and then with a view the following summer, depending on what happens with Konate's contract, to maybe then go and sign a big centre-back. But I'm being told there's still money for a centre-back, as well as if Isak arrives. You would expect Liverpool to up their offer probably to around 140 million euros, and you would expect really Newcastle to accept it, and then Isak to arrive at the club. Isak right now only wants Liverpool. He doesn't want to go anywhere else. He's training on his own in San Sebastian at La Real Sociedad training ground, just waiting literally for the move to happen to Liverpool. He's already spoken to Arne Slot. I think the personal terms have already been agreed between him and Liverpool, or certainly not far from it. So now it's just a case of Liverpool finding an agreement with Newcastle, and also Newcastle finding a replacement, whether that's Sesko, Watkins, Wissa. They've got a few names on their shortlist, but they also need to find a replacement before this whole deal for Liverpool and Isak to happen.
Do you want to deal? That changes, right? That changes the whole discussion, because I didn't know that, and I'm trying to figure out how they've got more money left. If Jules is saying they've got more money left, even if they spend 140 on Isak, then that changes my complete narrative and how I look at the Isak signing completely. But do they, Jules? I mean, do they have more money?
I know. I'm like used to be, and we talked about it the other day together as well on the show, and they're saying they do. They had the money from Luis Diaz to come that arrived. Kwanzaa was a good sell, to be fair, for his age and his profile. They expect money for Darwin to come at some point. I'm not sure who's going to buy Darwin Núñez, but they are quite positive about finding a club that would welcome him. So that should be quite a significant fee coming into the Liverpool's account.
Wow.
And I think let's not forget as well that for the last 2 years, they didn't really sign anybody. They had 100 million ready for Caicedo. He chose Chelsea. They had some money ready for Zubimendi. He chose to stay at Real Sociedad. All that money is now ready to be spent by Liverpool. And this was always the plan. This summer was always going to be a big summer. Richard Hughes and Michael Edwards came back and arrived last summer. Barry Hunter just finished that trio of recruitment and that recruitment team. And they always planned for a big summer this summer. That big, I don't think so. But certainly they thought it was going to be a big summer. This is the biggest transfer summer we've ever seen. If they do Isak, after all the names we mentioned already, I don't remember any club in England doing something as great and big as this, that much spending in the same summer. That would be something exceptional. But apparently they still have money for another centre-back. It might just be a £20 million centre-back, a £30 million centre-back. But as a backup again, but they said they still have the money for that.
They didn't bring in a lot of players, but they did bring in over the last, the captain of Hungary, Dominik Szoboszlai, from RB Leipzig. They brought in a World Cup winner, and Alexis McAllister from Brighton. It wasn't huge figures, but the fact that they've run their ship in a manner where they're able to go out and obliterate, it seems at the moment, the rest of the Premier League with this summer spending is an amazing bit of business. And for all those teams that have strengthened and hoped for a better year, like Manchester City and Arsenal and Chelsea, they must be looking at Liverpool and going, really?
So let's take a look at Liverpool here. Do you see Ekitike and Isak playing in the starting 11 together, Craig?
Well, that would go out with what they've done over the last couple of years, even with the last few years, even before Arne Slot, when it was Jurgen Klopp. They've generally only had one player, sometimes a false nine up there. So I don't know. Obviously, Florian Wirtz is a guy who he can play in a wider position, but he's best to get the best out of him. You want to have him in the number 10, and of course Alexander Isak as well. Through the middle for Newcastle has done a fantastic job. So I don't know what Arne Slot's got up his sleeve in terms of who would play with who and who would start. But clearly, if Isak comes in at that price, as good as young talent as Ekitike is, then Alexander Isak, he starts. But it's formidable when you think that they've lost a couple of players. Trent Alexander-Arnold goes, Mo Salah was going to go, Luis Diaz has gone. Obviously, the tragedy that unfolded with the loss of Diogo Jota. Nobody was ever thinking anything like that. So, and from a football perspective, they not only lost a friend and a colleague. It's always a difficult thing to talk about this because it's a personal side of this with a loss of life. But there's also the football side where he was such a big player for Liverpool, whether he was starting or coming off the bench, chipping in with goals and all sorts of other stuff. So they've got some positions to fill, and I think thus far are all around the field. They've done a very, very good job.
Now, when it comes to the other side of things, though, here, Jules, Newcastle have a bit of a problem on their hands at the moment. Isak out training in Spain. What's going to happen to them?
Well, they're actively looking for another number 9, and we know that Callum Wilson, whose contract was coming to an end, was not renewed either. So they don't have Isak, they don't have Wilson either. They've got Yango Sula, who's a good prospect, but nowhere near the level of Isak, certainly, but not even Callum Wilson in terms of experience of Premier League and goal-scoring records and things like that. So they probably don't need just one number 9, but actually 2 to come this summer if Isak goes. And they are very reluctant, obviously, to let Isak go. But there's also the case of, one, he doesn't want to stay. It's as simple as that. He doesn't want to be there. 2, it's a lot of money. Again, I said they bought him for £70 million 3 years ago now. They will double that if he goes to Liverpool. So there's some offers that you can't really turn down, let's be honest here. This is a business as well as football. So there's that. And as I mentioned earlier, Sesko is on their shortlist, but apparently, right now he seems to prefer a move to Manchester United. There's Yohan Wissa, but Yohan Wissa is a good player, a good Premier League player. Had a really good season with Brentford last year with Mbomo. But is he really the replacement you want for Alexander Isak? Do you look at Ollie Watkins, for example, who's already 29, who will turn 30 in this season coming? Again, much older than Isak, slightly different profile, and you would expect Villa to still want quite a lot of money for him, and in an international. So there's a lot of things right now happening at Newcastle, on top of other positions that they are still trying to strengthen, which take time. So for Andy Howe and all his team at Newcastle, it's also a massive, massive few weeks coming up.
If they want the money, because they're trying to build themselves up so they can get in to the big 5 or the big 6, and obviously right now, because of the money side of it, they can't. So if they're desperate to get that 150 million, somebody like Ollie Watkins is going to have to be a stopgap, because they cannot afford to let Isak go without having somebody there. They just can't do it. For all the money they're going to make bringing Isak in, if they start the season with nothing else, that's going to affect them in the long run, which means they're going to lose money. They're not going to be in the top 4. So they're actually going to lose. The fact that they sell Isak without a replacement doesn't do them any favours, because the money they'll lose by not getting in the Champions League the following season is going to hurt them. So that negates all the money that they're going to get for Isak. So they don't have a choice. Newcastle cannot afford to let Isak go unless they have somebody in. And right now, Ollie Watkins seems the ideal stopgap, because you know you'll score goals, won't score as many as Isak, but you know what you're going to get. And if they don't get Sesko and they don't get Ollie Watkins, Isak can't be allowed to go. They just can't let him go.
It's still, again, we've talked about this before, Newcastle with the Saudi investment, things have obviously been on the up for them, and Eddie Howe's done a good job, and they're in the Champions League, so they are kind of mixing it with the top 5 or 6 at the moment. Although City sort of fell away a little bit last year, came stronger in the second half. It's just not a very good statement, is it, to your supporters that I know money talks. I know money talks, but there's not been too many times where your big star has been sold or has gone to the rival. You think back, Van Persie going from Arsenal to Man United. There have been some, but it doesn't happen a lot. And what we have here is a club in Newcastle that are trying to build. Obviously, they have more PSR problems than some of the clubs, right. So that comes into it. But you're still selling your star asset, no matter how much money you're getting, to the best team in England at the moment. And it's just not a good signal in terms of, people will paint it a certain way. Well, we'll take the money, we're going to put it this, we're going to do this, we're going to buy younger players, which Ollie Watkins is not if he goes. I mean, Ollie Watkins' form fell off in the second half of last season. There is no doubt about that. He was a bit hit and a miss. And he's certainly no Alexander Isak. If it's a stopgap with Watkins and the money's right, I'm okay with that. But if it's 50 or 60 million, maybe more than that for a 29-year-old who did not have a great 6 months last year for sure, then that's a problem. Sesko, and Juls is right, Sesko looks like he wants to go to Man United. That's just because it's a bigger, worldly, better-known club. It's not because they're a better team. But that would be a better fit with the profile, with the age and spending the money and maybe the sell-on value like they're getting possibly for Alexander Isak. So they really are in a difficult position, Eddie Howe and Newcastle at the moment, because they did such a good job last year. They were pretty consistent most of the way through the season. And if they get it wrong, and if they leave this hanging a long time, late into this transfer window, then the start of the season could be a huge worry for him. Almost like pulling the rug from under him. Mm-hmm. And when that happens to a manager, it's not a good sign. No, you can keep your eye on everything that's going on in the transfer window over on our website, Transfer Talk. Stay up to date with Liverpool's moves and who Newcastle have got their eye on over there.